Biblically Centered Kids.
Well, hi friends. Welcome to the Biblically Centered Kids podcast. Today is November 3rd, 2024, and it is a great Sunday today. My name is Miss Danika, and I'm excited to guide you on a draw along. But first, if you live in the United States, I'm sure you noticed it this morning, but today is Daylight Savings Day in most of the USA. Basically, what that means is we got an additional hour added to our day today, and it is starting to get a lot darker in the afternoon. This crazy time shift was put in place to help people not sleep through a large part of the day during the summer. Port Arthur, Ontario, was the first city in the world to enact a daylight savings time on July 1st, 1908. Austria-Hungary and the German Empire adopted it in 1916, while other countries followed suit soon after. The United States adopted it in 1918. And to add to the craziness, not every country adjusts for daylight savings. And even then, if they do, lots of countries do it at different points throughout the year. So our friends in the UK shift the last week in October, and in New Zealand they shift in September. So even though you might be a little sad about it getting darker quicker, I hope you're able to use that time to spend time with your family indoors, enjoying this time around the upcoming holidays. Well, it is Sunday, so you know what that means. We are going to do a draw along. So why don't you grab a piece of paper, your pens, pencils, crayons, whatever you want, and then we'll get started. So for today's drawing, we're going to draw a picture from our New Testament story this week. If you remember, we talked about when Jesus washed his disciples' feet. He was showing love by doing something that was really out of the ordinary. He humbled himself and washed away the physical dirt on each of his 12 disciples' feet. He said that this was to give them an idea of what was to come. And we know that Jesus is able to wash away our sins and the dirty, messed up parts of our hearts now because he died on the cross. And it's something that he didn't have to do, but he chose to do it because he loves us that much. Amen. All right, so get your piece of paper, and we're going to start with it long ways. So where the tallest or longest part is going up and down, and the shortest part is across. And so we are going to draw Jesus washing Peter's feet. You remember Peter was the one who said, "Lord, why are you doing this? I should be washing yours." And so that was just a special part in the story. So I'm going to explain it first, and then we'll get into it. So we're going to have Peter sitting on a little bench with one of his feet in a basin of water. The other foot is going to kind of be held up, and that's going to be the one that Jesus is actually bending down, holding and washing. So Jesus, we're going to kind of see his back and his side. We're not going to see his face, but we will see Peter's face, okay? All right, so first I'm going to draw Peter, and I'm going to start on the right side of my paper, kind of towards the top. And he's going to be sitting, he's going to take up about half of my paper sitting on his bench. So first, I'm actually going to sketch out that bench he's sitting on, like halfway up on my paper and over to the right. So he's going to be sitting over there. So I'm going to just sketch in my bench so I know how big he's going to be. So I'm going to just put a few lines across, maybe show that it's a piece of wood. So make it have a little bit of thickness. And that bench is actually going to go off the right side of my page. So, all right. So now that I have that drawn, I'm going to draw Peter, and he's going to be sitting down. Back then they kind of wore robes or like tunics. right? So I'm going to have him sitting down. So I'm going to kind of sketch out where his legs would go. So I'm going to get those legs drawn first. So he's going to have the leg that's kind of behind him or furthest away from us. So that right leg, that's going to be the one in the basin. So I'm going to put that one just straight down. I'm going to stick it in a bucket or a basin or like a small shallow tub of water. So I'm going to draw that too. So I'm going to draw one kind of arced line kind of going up, one arc line kind of going down to kind of surround his foot. So I'm not going to see all of that foot because it's going to be in the water. And then that basin's going to be sitting on the ground. I'm going to draw some more lines to go down and curve across to kind of finish making that bucket of water. Okay, and then his other leg is going to kind of be in front. And that's actually going to be the one that Jesus is going to be holding. So I'm going to just draw his leg for right now. And I'll draw his foot a little later once I draw Jesus holding it. So I'm going to come back up and draw from his waist, kind of sitting on that bench. So make it look like he's sitting. And then curve his robe kind of around his legs, down near his ankles. Okay. So now I've got kind of his lower half, or the lower portion of his body. So now I'm going to come up and draw like his chest and his waist and his shoulders. So I'm going to come up and do that. I'm going to draw his shoulders. And again, he's just kind of wearing a robe, and I'm going to make it have short sleeves. So both sides of his robe. And then because he is on that bench and he's kind of sitting on it, I'm going to have his hands or his arms kind of come down and be on the bench to kind of hold himself up. So I'm going to draw that back arm kind of going down, and it's going to be kind of behind his robe, so you won't actually see his hand. And then his front arm or his left arm, I'm going to have come down, and I'm going to have his hand actually kind of grasp that edge of our bench. So he's kind of holding on. So I'm drawing his fingers wrapping around his wrist, and then up his elbow, up that arm to meet the robe that I drew, or his like sleeve, his short sleeve. All right, and now it's time. Peter needs a head, right? He needs a face. So let's kind of draw in that shape. It's going to kind of be a oval to begin with. And then I'm going to make Peter have a beard. So beard kind of comes up over his mouth. His mouth is just kind of peeking out of it a little bit. His beard will kind of come up and cover his neck. And his ear will poke out, and then his hair will kind of go up. It'll just kind of be short, kind of up over the rest of his head. And then I'm going to give him a good strong nose. And his eyes, he's going to be kind of looking down to where Jesus is. And his eyebrows, don't forget his eyebrows. All right. So I think Peter looks pretty good. So we've got him sitting there on the bench, and he's looking over to the left and kind of down to where Jesus is going to be. All right, so where Peter is in his head, Jesus is bending down. So Jesus's head is actually going to kind of be right across from Peter's chest and kind of in the middle of our page. So I'm going to sketch out his head first so I know where that's going to be. And again, we're not really going to see his face. We're going to draw his hair down over it because he is looking down towards Peter's feet. So I've got his head sketched out, and I'm now going to draw his body. So he's going to be kneeling down. So how that's going to work is I'm going to have his shoulders and his waist, and then those arms, his arms, I'm going to have reaching down towards that foot that we drew of Peter's, remember? So his arms are going to come down with his wrists, and his fingers I'm going to put wrapped around kind of the bottom of Peter's foot. And then his back arm is going to come down, and we'll see it maybe kind of holding Peter's toes, maybe. And on Jesus, I've got his sleeves rolled up, so you can kind of make some little bunches, maybe where his elbow would be or something, kind of like it looks like his sleeves are rolled up. Okay, and now for his legs, we're going to kind of draw. So he's kneeling, right? So his knee to his foot are going to be on the ground, and then the rest of his leg is going to kind of be up at an angle, attaching back to his waist. So just kind of draw that, how you think that would look. That one foot I'm going to draw just kind of straight across. His foot, or the back of his foot, is kind of faced up, kind of over towards the left of my page with his little toes. And his other foot kind of back behind that to kind of show his feet are together. And his robe just kind of comes down and drapes around. And I'm going to draw a sash around Jesus's waist. Maybe he had a towel or something that he was using to dry their feet. So maybe he could use that for that. So I'm going to kind of tie that and make that. Okay, and now I think all that's left is now to go back on Jesus's head and to give him some hair. And I'm going to make his hair kind of like shoulder length. And just kind of draw that. And it's blocking his face since he's looking down at Peter's feet, so he can't see that. All right. Well, I think I got the gist of it. How did yours turn out? Can you tell what's going on? Can you see Peter sitting there and Jesus bending over and washing his foot? Feel free to use this drawing either later today or next week to relay this week's New Testament story to a friend, a sibling, or a parent. Sometimes that just really helps if you hear something and then you can either draw it or act it out or retell it. That gets that story that much more in your brain for you to remember it and to think about it. Thank you so much for joining me on today's Draw Along. I hope you had as much fun as I did. I can't wait for you to join Mr. Jonny and I tomorrow for a new week and a new biblical family virtue. Until next time.